3 versus 3 seems to be a hot topic right now in the NXL. This week we're going to talk about it from a fan's perspective and where we think it's going. Hello everyone and welcome to Old Guy Paintball. My name is Craig and I am the host. 3 versus 3 or 3-man is a very common form for tournament paintball. It's pretty much used a lot at our local fields because it's a quick way to get a tournament and not have to, 3 to 4 guys on a team is a lot easier than getting 5 or 7. So it's a very common format, especially in local and regional play. But this year has taken a really big leap in the NXL Major League Paintball, and it started with the Mid-Atlantic Open, then it went to the ESPN showing again at the Midwest Open, the Lone Star Open, and as of right now it appears it's going to be a World Cup. As for 2026, nobody really knows, but for the rest of this year, it does seem to be the experiment in progress. But 3-man has advantages, and yeah, it has some disadvantages. And is it the future for professional paintball? Well, we're going to talk about some of that here. First of all, 3-man offers something that seems to be and addresses what seems to be a common issue right now, and that is slower, longer points in paintball. One of the things I think that they went to this is to get it back onto ESPN in a mainstream sports is right now we seem to have a real problem that there's a lot of 4, 5+ minute points in paintball, and it's not very exciting and it's kind of boring and it just doesn't appeal for the current sports mode on TV. So I think the 3-man is an experiment to, one, increase action, which it does, and put more points out there, which draws a little bit more interest. But there's some drawbacks to that. One of the things is with 3-man is if you're not familiar with paintball, it seems to be a little bit of a struggle to understand what's going on and some of the concepts of it and just the general concept of tournament paintball in that mode. The other thing is the size of the field. Now, when they do it at the NXL events, they use a full-size field, and that is how they play it. When they did the ESPN, it seemed to be a little bit smaller, maybe 3/4 size. It wasn't bad, and I thought it'd be a good idea, but was a little too small. And, the thing is, because the way the concept was, points were turned over very quickly, and some people talked about that was one of the reasons it was hard to follow and hard to understand. But the 3-man game has had some interesting ideas to put forth. First of all, the limited paint, 4 pods and your hopper. That does kind of keep the game from just guys running the 3 bunkers and just stand there just trading paint, which is kind of what's the problem in the 5-man right now. We're not going to address a lot of these issues. I will address more of this in a future episode in ways I think that they could improve the NXL 5-man. So we're going to really just, like I said, stay more focused with the 3 right now, but they do have ideas that could be transferred into that. The other thing is the 3-man gives you I think it's easier to follow on the larger field. But again, you can only focus on so much in one time. So it's not, I think the ESPN program showed some good and bad with that. There are some, like I said, in the NXL regular tournaments, we don't have this quick turnaround on points. There's 2 teams out there like it is like a regular tournament paintball. So there's a little bit more time interaction for commentary and reviews. But that was because of the time constraints of having to put it in that 1 hour limitation that ESPN stuck with. But going forward, does 3-man have a future? And honestly, I don't know. One of the problems I see is with 3-man is right off the bat is right now you have 10 players per team, 20 teams, that's roughly 200 professional paintball players. A lot of teams have extras, just in case somebody gets injured or something. So you figure there's between 225 and probably 250 professional paintballers right now, not counting what's in Division 1, that people who have dropped down or whatever. But if you go to a 3-man, you don't need a 10-man roster. You only need 6, maybe 7 guys on a team, which right off the bat that's going to cut out 30% of your professional paintball players. That may not go well over with a lot of fans in the sense that in players, because it limits the opportunities. But the flip side with that is, because you're going to have maybe less pros, you might have better paintball overall because you're going to have the best of the best, as you would say. But definitely that would be an issue that would have to be addressed. The second thing is, if you use 3-man in the NXL for the pro division, what do you do about divisional? That could turn into be an absolute nightmare in the lower divisions. I could see him probably maybe trying it in semi, but when you start getting to division 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, you have a limitation of how many fields you can set up. And unless you do something, you know, maybe make it a regional play, you're going to have a lot of problems trying to get all these teams of 3-man in during the same time frame of a normal tournament. And with that being said, you know, the other thing the NXL could do is, do you expand from 20 teams to say 32? That would give you more pro players, but it would also, if you do the tournament over 2 days or 3 days like it is the format now, could you do a round robin and then do a single elimination, or kind of what they have now that you just advanced on a Sunday to a, you know, some kind of tourney play, which would be a single elimination. That's another thing they would have to look at. So, you know, there are some difficulties in whether or not 3-man is the right thing. And second of all is, I don't know about you, but as fans, would you be interested in watching professional 3-man on a regular basis? I'm not sure if I'm sold on it. I kind of like the 5-man. I know in the past with the MPPL, they had 7, and they have experimented in the past couple years bringing back 10-man. But neither one has taken off recently, and I think 3-man is kind of in the same thing. The other real problem I have as a fan is with a 3-man event, especially being on Thursday. A lot of teams used to hold a practice on Thursday. Now they're playing this 3-man event, and I think in the last event, the Tauntauns did not field a team, and I'm not sure if any other teams have skipped it. But it seems that teams that do well in the 3-man on Thursday struggle on Friday and Saturday in the regular NXL tournament. You know, it puts a lot of extra wear and tear and stress on players having that extra day of competitive paintball. In fact, I believe last time when Dynasty didn't even field some of their better players like Ryan Greenspan and stuff, only for the fact I think they just know that some of these players cannot handle that extra full day of playing. So when you look at it like that, one of the options could be is, do you have an expanded roster that, say, for example, you can have 15 people on your team for an NXL event, but only 10 can play in the regular event, and you have an additional 5 or something like that to play in these 3-man events, and you can help bring some, introduce newer players to your team or something like that. That could be a possible way of making it work. But right now, I think the 3-man puts an excessive amount of wear and tear on players that kind of is unnecessary, and it's affecting the 5-man game and affecting tournament paintball overall. But like I said, there are positives to it, that it does provide more action, more scoring opportunities, and there are some things that we may be able to switch over into 5-man to make it a better game. And I give Tom Cole credit looking for ways to get paintball to be better, to be more fan-friendly or fan-supporting, and getting it back on mainstream. But I don't know if this really is the answer. And we'll talk about some other ideas here, like I said, here in the future, of ways I think the NXL could improve itself to make itself fit those needs. But what do you think about it? Do you have any opinions on it? Put them in the comments down below. And I'll look at them, and I'm interested to see how you fans also feel about 3-man going forward for the rest of this year and possibly into 2026. And with that, I thank everyone for all their support. Please hit that like and subscribe button and show support for the channel. And I look forward to seeing all of you on the paintball field soon.